afternoon and welcome back, everyone. This is US Home Talk. We are live here every Wednesday at noon. We actually didn't start at noon today. We had some technical difficulties that we got worked out here now, but we got those worked out, and we are live every Wednesday at noon and on demand at ushometalk.com and everywhere you find your podcasts. We are your hosts, Mike Overson with Luminate Home Loans. We have Marcus Walgrave here with us with Hegg Realtors. He's in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And we have a guest with us today that I'm going to introduce here in just a little bit. We'll be taking all of your questions during our show today, anything and everything dealing with real estate, mortgages, credit repair, and we're also going to be talking some tax strategies with our guest, Ryan Boyd, as well. The call-in number is 612-234-7585. Again, 612-234-7585, or you can put comments in the comment section on Facebook as well. We'll be answering all the questions that were emailed to us during the week and the calls that we received during our hotline throughout the last week as well. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guest today. He's no stranger to our show. He has been on several times before. He is with Last Switch. And if you're asking what Last Switch is, I mean, the best thing to do is just look at his title that he put down there. He is a business consultant / tax ninja. So he's a tax credit ninja, folks. Probably black belt. You got your black belt, Ryan?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Black belt tax credit ninja, Ryan Boyd from Last Switch. Thanks for joining us, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
So we're gonna get into the tax stuff that Ryan does here in just a little bit, but I did want to open it up a little bit here. We're going to talk about some real estate and mortgage stuff. Last week we brought up that the news grabbed a hold of these rate adjustments on conventional loans, and that higher credit score borrowers are going to have larger rate increases on conventional loans moving forward starting May 1st, and lower credit score borrowers are going to have lower credit score increases moving first from May 1st heading forward. A lot of confusion around that. A lot of questions. Marcus, you probably got a lot of questions from your clients about it. And so trying to explain that so that people can understand exactly what that means and what's going on, it's a little bit difficult, because what the news is going to say, if you read those headlines, it's going to look like, hey, if I have a lower credit score, I'm going to get a better interest rate than someone with a higher credit score. And that's not the case. So the first thing that I wanted to cover today was that, right? So it's like, we're going to talk about it again, but it is the hot topic when it comes to mortgages in today's world, is those loan level pricing adjustments is what they're called. So just to recap what we spoke about there is that, let's just say everyone starts at a base rate. And just for today's example, let's say that base rate is 5%. Okay, that's the floor rate. Now, based on your borrowing profile, your credit score, your down payment, you're this, you're that, right? There's adjustments to that rate. So let's say an 800 credit score borrower, before these changes were made, would go from a 5% base rate to a 5.5% because of their down payment amount and because of this, because of that. And let's say a 680 credit borrower, that 5% rate would now adjust up to, let's just say 6.5% because of their credit score and their down payment, these other factors. Okay. So 5.5% and 6.5%. Now, after these changes go into effect, that 800 credit score borrower now is going to slide up to like 5.75%, maybe 6%. And that 680 credit score borrower is going to slide down from 6.5% down to like 6.25% to maybe 6.125%. So the rate, you're going to see the rates starting to squish together between those high credit score borrowers and low credit score borrowers. They're going to get squished together, so the difference is not as much as it used to be. You're still going to get a lower rate if you have a higher credit score. Okay, you're still going to get a lower rate if you have a higher credit score versus the people with lower credit scores. Just know that your interest rate is not going to be that much lower like it used to be from the lower credit score borrowers. So that's my main takeaway from that.
And you can kind of dive into the, if you do reach out to Mike and you want to get more information on it, why are they doing this? I've had a handful of conversations with the lenders and mortgage bankers, in the Sioux Falls area, and they'll kind of all give you their own pitch for it. some are churched up and some are, pretty blunt in what they're really trying to do. So, if you guys want to get more information, it just makes sense to reach out to somebody like Mike Overson over at Luminate Home Loans, and he can kind of give you, the dirty details on what's going on.
Yeah. The one question I got was, Mike, help us make sense as to why they're doing this. And I literally just say, it doesn't even make sense to me, so I can't explain why it would make sense to anyone else, because I don't necessarily agree with it. It doesn't make sense. I know why they're doing it. The reason why is because they want to make home ownership more affordable, just across the masses. So how do you do that? Well, if you can lower the interest rate for a certain class of people, a certain group of borrowers, that makes the payment more affordable. More of those people will be able to buy a house. Typically, the higher credit score borrowers, they don't run into issues as far as the interest rate's too high or payments too high or something like that. So it's like, okay, so what happens if we kind of just smash everyone into the middle? And that should open up the doors for more home ownership across the country. And so that's why they're doing it. Their method of how they're getting to that, I don't necessarily agree with, but it's still a good reason. They're trying to just expand home ownership and make it more affordable for certain demographics. So
You don't necessarily make the rules. You're just there to enforce them, right? You got to play by them. Everybody has to play by them, regardless of how silly they may be.
Right. That's what it comes down to. It's like tax code. Why does that make any sense, Ryan? Why does that make any sense that would be as part of there?
I get that question a lot.
I don't know. But it's the rule, and I just got to follow it, right? So this is how we address it and we move forward. So,
amen.
So Marcus, let's talk about a video that I actually sent out yesterday. I want to get your input and your feedback on this. So the report that I saw from Case-Shiller. So Case-Shiller is kind of like the go-to for housing prices throughout the country. Like, they look nationwide, home prices. Our prices generally going up? Are they going down? They staying the same? That type of information. So their report said from February to March in the country, home prices went up 0.2%. So it was the first time that home prices went up. If we looked over the last, I think 5 or 6 months, maybe even longer, might have even been 8 months. But for 8 months in a row there, home prices were ticking downwards. Now, February to March, they actually went up 0.2%.
Lost you, Mike.
Oh,
Mike, I can still hear you.
There we go.
Okay.
I can still hear you.
Am I still there? So February to March, home prices went up 0.2%. If we look at last February, so February of 2022 to February of 2023, home prices went up 2%. So if you look year over year, home prices went up another 2%. Everyone was talking about, there's going to be some sort of housing crash. Prices are going to come down. They have to, because of where interest rates are at and all that stuff. Well, guess what? Exactly what we told everyone. That's not happening. It's not going to happen because our inventory is so low. So Marcus, I wanted to bring you in onto this and get your thoughts. Are you seeing the same thing on your end?
Yeah, most definitely seeing that on our end. A couple other studies that came out. We're talking about specific markets, right? And we talk about this all the time on US Home Talk, and that's make sure you're getting information that's relative to the market that you're looking to buy or sell real estate in. And so there's this talk about the values of homes, and one region that's doing quite well is the Midwest. And that's what we've been saying here for the last several months, that it's like this isn't the a Portland market. This isn't maybe the Missouri market. We're talking about the Twin Cities and the Sioux Falls market, and what we were seeing was that home values were going to increase. So we were advising our buyers who are maybe getting some national news or some news from other regions, and they're saying, well, we're kind of hoping to see the prices to come down, and then we're going to buy when that happens. And we were saying, hey, that's not going to happen in our markets. And so, that's kind of what we're seeing. And as a whole, you kind of starting to see some builder confidence, really taking off as well. And so, they're seeing this demand for housing pre-existing. That inventory is some of the lowest out there. There are certain markets where at the end of 2022, maybe the high volume builders, maybe got a little ahead of themselves with the number of builds that they were starting. And they kind of put some of that stuff on pause maybe in December and January. So, the data looked like, oh, nobody's building homes. It's like, well, they just had a surplus that they were looking to finish, and they were going to hold off until they got some of those under contract. I mean, we're seeing new construction, go under contract, within a day or two of hitting the market. And so, I mean, I think that's the kind of the message that we've been telling people in our specific market, that, home values are on the rise, and it's a healthy rise, right? We're not talking 10, 12% increase. We're getting back to more of a, last 5 decade type of average, that 4%, in some case, like you said, 2%. I mean, that's still, quite a bit higher than what they were, saying that it was going to happen. So, we're definitely seeing that here in the Sioux Empire, the Sioux Falls, South Dakota market.
Yeah, and I think we're going to continue to see that. I don't think home prices are going to go down. I don't think we're going to see depreciation. Obviously, we did see it there for a few months, but that was kind of that was a short-term reset of when we go back to 2020 and 2021, when you have 15% appreciation for 2 years in a row, right? And your home appreciates over 24 months, goes up 30% in value. There's going to be some sort of correction. That's not sustainable. Just like interest rates at 2.5% and 3%, that's not sustainable. Nothing that happened during COVID is normal. Okay. Yeah. And basically that's how I explain it. Nothing was normal. Our lives weren't normal because we were quarantined. Right.
And historically, like, the market is always going to correct itself. And, when you think about what was going on with, the prices of real estate, the record low interest rates, there's no way that could stick around and keep happening forever. Right. So, I think, everybody talks about common sense so much, but unfortunately common sense is very uncommon. But, that there is some correction coming. It has to happen historically, right? Like that. It always is. It always will. And some of that stuff was insane, what was going on in your guys' industry.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we went up 30% in 2 years appreciation, and then we came down like 8%. 8 to 10% maybe was the correction over that 6 to 8 month period, last fall going into, January, maybe February this year. Right?
So over 3 years, you're net 22, you're still up 22%.
You're up 20 to 22%. And then now we're going to be, anywhere between 2 and 5%, that's projected 2 and 5% over the next couple of years. So, so we're back to normal. The average is 4.2%, over the last 40 years appreciation, you're at 4.2%. We're going to be back in that normal range here, which is sustainable. That's what we needed to get back to, because again, COVID, nothing was normal. You can't really compare anything back to those COVID years, because it's probably not going to happen again. You know what I mean? Let's go back before COVID. Let's go back from, look at 2012 to 2020. Look at those 8 years. That was pretty normal, to be honest with you. Compare stuff to that, because that's normal moving forward. Okay, if we're matching what happened in 2012 to 2020, yeah, okay. We're normal. That's great.
Did you just call me normal?
No, you're definitely not normal. We all know that, right?
I was going to say, I appreciate the compliment, but
yeah. So Marcus, moving forward here, moving forward on the real estate side of things, what's your advice? What's your advice for people looking to sell anytime in the next 6 months? And then what would be your advice for anyone looking to buy a home in the next 6 months?
This has always been a kind of a conversation that I've had with my oldest brother Jason. When you're looking at real estate, it should never be a short-term goal, short-term plan. You should have a long-term approach to it. If you're in a position to buy, you need to buy today. There's no point of waiting. Mike, you always talk about, you marry the house, or you date the rate, you marry the house. Right. And so, people are like, oh, okay, the interest rates, are they good today? Are they bad today? And it's like, if you're purchasing real estate, that shouldn't really be the driving factor, as long as the numbers make sense. Kind of the same thing with sellers. If the time is, if you are in need to sell your property, or you want to sell your property, you're going to be able to take advantage of it, especially now that we're in the spring market. This is a bidding war type of season, and we're already seeing that. We've been seeing that here for the last several weeks. I mean, you could even made the argument, when everybody, the big media outlets were, gloom and doom about the real estate market, in December, and in specific markets like a lot of the markets in the Midwest, sellers were doing very well selling in December and in January and February. And so, it's something where if you're looking to get into the real estate market, whether it's buying or selling, there's absolutely no reason to wait unless you need to wait for your own personal needs or your family's needs. And then we just come up with a plan on how to prepare yourself for the next 6 months, align themselves with the right, professionals and experts in their respective area, and just come up with the right kind of plan for them. So very, very custom plans for everybody.
Yeah. Yep. It's like a fingerprint, right? Everyone's got a different fingerprint. What fits one particular situation or one person is not going to fit yours. Having a real estate agent that can put the pieces of the puzzle together. So if you're a person that is selling your house and now you got to buy another one, right? One side of that coin is super quick and easy. Selling your house, going to be pretty quick and easy, right? As long as it's done correctly, right? As long as you use a good professional real estate agent who knows what they're doing. It's predictable, right? It's predictable on how much you're going to get for your house. It's predictable when it's going to sell, when you're going to be able to close. Buying a house is a different story, right? So it's a little unpredictable because you can make an offer on house number one, and if you don't get it, now when does house number two pop up? Then you got to make an offer. Do you beat the other offers that are on that house, and so on? So it's really never too early to start, because there's a bunch of different ways, and Marcus knows this, is that there's a bunch of different ways how to skin that cat, right? And so how do you take the sale and a purchase and get them to close on the same day? So I only have to do one move, from the old house to the new house. That's what we do. That's our job, and we do it all day, every day. So it's something we can help you out with, and I encourage people to plug in with us sooner versus later, because the more time we have to plan, the typically smoother it is.
And furthermore, just to kind of to expand on that, Mike, and some people who, especially sellers, that can be selling stressful anyways. Obviously, if you're selling, you will be moving, and moving stressful. And so it's one of those situations where, if you are working with somebody like Mike and you have the conversation, there are loan products, mortgage products out there that can allow you to, in a sense, buy a house, maybe bridge the gap between when you're ready to sell. So then you can take, maybe a week or two to move out. And even now more than ever, are those situations where it does feel low risk for sellers, because, they're in that position where our inventory is so low. We can let sellers know, hey, if you can qualify for some sort of like bridge loan or something like that, or maybe just carry two mortgages at one time, because our inventory is so low, especially in pre-existing homes, you can feel more confident today that we will be able to get your house under contract. We will be able to close it, as soon as possible. Maybe before, that second mortgage payment is due, to where then you don't have a double payment, and you can have this, seamless move and transition into your new house. So there are definitely tons of options out there for you.
So let's we're gonna switch gears here just a little bit. We're gonna talk more with Ryan on the tax stuff here. So Ryan, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit more? Obviously, we know you're the tax credit ninja, but go a little bit deeper into what you guys do, and then we're going to try to stump you on some tax questions.
Oh, perfect. I love it. Game on.
Yeah, right.
Challenge accepted. So first off, I always, anytime I'm talking to pretty much anyone, I always like to disclose and get this out of the way. I'm not a CPA, but over the course of the last couple of years, last basically 8 to 10 years, based on the business consulting side of what I do, it was presented to me, and a lot of questions were asked about specific niches of the IRS tax code. And so I quickly, became a student of a lot of the tax credits, to be able to best represent them, explain them, and help my clients navigate them, because they're worth so much money to business owners that, again, everybody knows what just happened. A lot of people just wrote checks to the IRS. And they also, a lot of the people that I work with, they say, yep, I've got a very conservative CPA. And I give CPAs compliments all the time. A lot of what we do is we don't compete with CPAs necessarily. We try and step in and complement them. Their plates are already full. Their workload is already so heavy that we're trying to take some of that risk and that liability off of their shoulders. They don't have to be an expert on absolutely everything, especially things like Section 41 of the IRS tax code, which is R&D, or the ERTC, which has been the most recent, one of the most extremely lucrative tax credits available to business owners. But on that same note, one of the most complicated tax credits that continues to change and continues to evolve, which we'll get into a little bit later. But again, just knowing that, number one, the business owners have options. Okay, if you have questions, if you want to know more, if you're curious about a particular tax credit, whether or not you qualify, we can come in and we can help you. We can help you navigate that at no cost. We can do an analysis. And that literally goes for all 52 areas of business consulting that I help business owners with. Tax credits just seem to be the most lucrative, the easiest way to break that ice, to say, hey, Mike, we took a quick look at this, and based on the number of employees you have, based on some of the activities you guys are doing, in R&D, you've got about $60,000 laying out there. On the ERTC, based on your 7 employees, you've got $162,000 in tax credits that you do qualify for. Kind of a great way to make an introduction to people.
Right.
And not to mention is, I kind of describe us in many cases as a Swiss Army knife. It's, what do you need? And a lot of business owners are like, well, what do you do? And I always like to start off by saying, well, this is where we typically start. This is an easy way for us to kind of, get introduced to each other. This is some of the low-hanging fruit we'd like to help you with first. And then down the road, we can see what else you need, what other areas that you're looking to address. And we'll continue to, offer guidance and advice along the way. Hey, maybe this is another area that we should look at, or based on the discovery call, these are some things that we uncovered we'd like to look at immediately. And a lot of people, Marcus, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Ryan, the ERTC. I like to listen to SiriusXM. Big fan of the No Shoes Radio station, and I tell you what, it seems like that has been one of the most played commercials on SiriusXM is the employee retention tax credit, and I hadn't heard of that prior to maybe in the last 3-4 weeks, but I've heard it multiple times. And I think that's something to where, when you said about the 26,000, you may be eligible for up to 26,000 per employee. That's a lot of money. And it's interesting because, being a small business owner, just hearing that for the first time, it's like, okay, well, what do we do now? Who do we reach out to? And you can reach out to somebody like Ryan.
That's exactly right. Thanks, Marcus. And that's a shocker. Those are huge numbers, right? And there's a lot of other qualifying factors that go into that. But yeah, like I said, everything starts with, hey, here's a survey. Here's something that's just completely innocent. It's going to take about 30 minutes to complete this survey. This is going to allow us to confirm, number one, that yes, you've got a solid case. There's a very high probability that you do qualify for these tax credits, and present an estimate. So this is approximately, if you've got 5 employees, 26,000 per employee, roughly 130 grand out there. How much of that is actually in your bucket that you do still qualify for? There's an equation. There's a lot of different factors that go into play. And to be honest, and I've got a whole laundry list of success stories that I'd like to cite, and other various things, but you're absolutely right, Marcus. When you're talking about the employee retention tax credits, we've kind of nicknamed the ERTC is the third and final wave of economic stimulus that's coming from COVID. So we all know about the first two, right? The first draft of the PPP loans, the second draft of the PPP loans, and the third and final wave, even though they're completely different than the PPP loans. There's no loan aspect to them. There's no repayment. There's no ambiguity around whether or not it's going to be forgiven or paid back or anything like that. These are just straight tax credits. So if you think about the first two waves as a way to help you keep your doors open and keep your employees employed, so that when on the other side of the pandemic, that you still have those employees. They haven't jumped ship, they haven't gone somewhere else, and you're able to pay them. That was, the ERTC is on the back end now as a reward, more or less, for staying open, for surviving. And how much of that is in your bucket is what we do, and make it as clean and simple as possible for business owners. But again, when you're talking about these tax credits, there is some overlap. The ERTC, I'm sorry, the PPP, even though they're completely different animals, there is some overlap. And working with an expert and a lot of CPAs, that we partner with, and business professionals, people that have those relationships with the business owners that are looking for an avenue or a way to add value to their relationships, will seek out and find experts like us. Because again, they don't want to become an expert. A good CPA will say, hey, listen, my plate is already full. Like, please, can we white label you? Can you be our ERTC tax credit department? Absolutely. No problem. We'd love to. Yeah. So, but again, I represent a team of people that are laser focused on just this tax credit. Okay. These are licensed CPAs that aren't going to step out and do your tax returns or compete with your CPA. But they're also backed up and complemented by tax attorneys. So this is one of those tax credits that when you go down this path, it's important to have counsel involved. Most people are like, what's a tax attorney? Okay. Just like our forensic ERTC specialists, that's all they're doing. That's all they're focused on, staying up to date on all of the changes, all of the nuances, to make sure that every case we're looking into and we're signing off before we present it to a client is black and white. It is open and shut. It is 100%. Yep, you've got a very solid case. This is ready to go. Get this submitted. Which, believe it or not, about 80% of the clients that we represent either didn't think that they qualified or have been told that they do not qualify. Think about that. So, Mike, you might remember like a year or two ago when I was on the show talking about the R&D,
Yep.
like it was some of those stats, it blows your mind that in the R&D area, 95% of business owners that qualify are not currently taking advantage of it. Okay. On the ERTC, 80% of the people that we represent, it's just like going to the doctor and getting a bad diagnosis. Okay. Somebody brings up the C word. It's like, gosh, that's the last thing you want to hear ever for you or a loved one. Are you maybe going to go out and get a second opinion? Yeah. Okay. And a lot of times people are, with these tax credits, they're told, no, that's it. Okay. They gave up on it. They revisited it, or I'm sorry, they originally visited early on, closer to the conception. Well, it's undergone 9 now most recently 10 major changes.
Yeah.
When I talk about complicated tax credits, this particular tax credit that stemmed from the CARES Act and one single act of Congress now spans 3 acts of Congress. That's how much it's evolved and how many different additional qualifications that they added, because they originally, at the conception, they realized very, very quickly that version 1.0 was not including a lot of the people, a lot of the business owners and companies that this tax credit was actually meant for. But with that being said, with the tax credit being so lucrative, it's kind of created the perfect storm for a lot of solicitors, a lot of, anybody that's trying to make a quick buck, to try and take advantage of business owners. And I was just compared to last week, another company that did it, does or claimed to do the ERTC, and I said, cool, no problem. I said, let's get them on the phone. I said, if they're so good and if you're comparing us to them, let's get all our cards on the table. And what I was able to decipher in my preliminary research and then throughout the call, they actually had high school kids doing the calculations. And if that doesn't scare you, I I don't know what does. And people all the time, they're like, well, Ryan, what about all these warnings on the IRS website and all these things that we've seen? Not to mention we're getting bombarded by solicitors. And I said, all the warnings on the IRS website, completely valid. Please take heed. Okay. They're not warning you about companies like us, people that are licensed and laser focused and only working on this, trying to help people. But yes, please be careful. But also please don't compare me to people like that.
Right.
And again, the laundry list of stories that I could tell you that have come from, not only helping people, but scary stuff that's going on, the fraudulent stuff. We're trying to weed that out. And to be honest, we come across it too. People trying to solicit, or not solicit, but submit fraudulent claims. And we're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Absolutely not. Sorry. And
Right.
we walk away from those agreements very quickly. So
you mentioned that, it's like you guys complement CPAs, and for those people that are like, I've used my same CPA for 15 years and he knows it, like, he knows the tax code like the back of his hand. I just went on the Google machine here and asked Google how many pages are in the US tax code. So without you guys looking at the same thing too, do you guys want to take a guess of how many pages there are?
2,000.
15.
There was 6,871.
Woo!
6,871 pages in the U.S. tax code.
And they change every year.
So there's not one person in the world that can stay up and be an expert on all 6,871 pages of that. And even if they did, like you mentioned, Ryan, even if they did, guess what? Next year, you're going to have to read another 6,871 pages because how much stuff changed from year after year.
It's not fair to expect your CPA to know all 600, 6,000 plus, and, I always tell people, like, CPAs are amazing. I love them. The good ones, the good ones that are smart enough to know, like, hey, listen, you guys should help us with this. And one of the smartest tax minds that I've ever come across in the country is on our team. And he said, he's like, let's just focus on the gist of this. He goes, I am a CPA. He's like, he owned his own firm for over 30 years. And he said, CPAs focus on basically the 1,200 pages of the tax code that are focused on you paying taxes. Okay. Now, again, there's 6,000 plus. Okay. Our team of not just tax specialists, but tax planning strategists are focused on the other 5,000 plus that can help you legally pay the least amount possible in taxes legally. So you think about that. It leaves the door wide open. And if you've never talked to a tax planning strategist or a tax planning team, that's one of the things that just sets us apart and makes us so much different than, say, a normal CPA. And we can still complement and help them in everything, every capacity that they do. We talk with CPAs all the time that are like, I'm looking at retiring. I'm looking at selling my whole book of business. I don't know what to do with my clients. Hey, let's sit here and talk about this. Perfect. That's how much when they find out after a discovery call of about, half an hour to an hour, how impressed they are with the team that I represent. And, on the tax planning side of things, when I was interviewing companies to partner with and work with and represent, I'm always looking for the best of the best of the best. And if I find somebody better, I have no problem flying their banner and working with them. Okay. This was one of 3 companies that I found that could do what they do in the country. And these guys blew the doors off of everybody else. That's how impressed I was with them. And they just recently brought the R&D back in-house. But again, the ERTC, that is kind of one of that's the hot topic right now. Like you said, Marcus, that's what everybody is talking about. That's what all the buzz is. And that's what needs to be focused on, because that's the one that has the ticking time clock. Okay. That's the one that has the expiration date on it. And it's ridiculously lucrative. So yeah, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Do we know what that expiration date is? I think that, we talked about earlier in the show, Ryan, you made the comment about how a lot of us, wrote checks here recently and filed our taxes and it's not that deadline where, they are separate from each other.
Correct. So this is really, really important to note. And I hope that everybody that's listening to this radio show right now, if there's only one thing that you take away from this, it's right here. Okay. This was the most recent change that happened last week. Okay. So everybody that, especially solicitors, okay, if you're a business owner and you're getting solicited about these and somebody is trying to put fear in you and say like, oh, you know what, you got to hurry up before time's running out. Well, the IRS just extended them. Okay. So in the history of tax credits, you've always had a 3-day retroactive, 3 years to go back and amend and get or capture tax credits that you may have missed or amend things. Okay. Again, I'm not a CPA, so I don't know all the history of the IRS tax code that changes every single year. But they recently announced that the 3 qualifying quarters that are grouped together that total $5,000 from 2020 are now extended to April 15th of 2024. So right now, okay, this is going to be the first time you guys hear it. You're probably not going to hear it from anybody else. Just the opposite. People are trying to instill fear and make you to, hurry up and do this before time runs out. Okay, you've got another year. I'd still recommend that you move as quickly as possible, but don't operate with fear. Don't make decisions based on fear, right, Mike?
I mean, it's like, human nature is going to be like, oh, God, I got another year. Perfect.
Yeah.
Next March, and it's like, oh, there's 30 days left.
Ryan, save us.
Right.
We got 2 weeks.
And not to mention, yeah, exactly. I mean, gosh, amen. So originally, like these would have dropped off quarter by quarter as far as eligibility. Now they just gave us a hard deadline. It's all of 2020's ERTC expiration date is April 15th, 2020. Okay. For all of 2021, all right, it is April 15th, 2025. With that being said, okay, don't procrastinate. Don't push the easy button and say, oh, I can relax. Hurry up.
Well, why would you wait? If you got 5 employees and you're looking at $26,000 per employee, why wouldn't you want to put over $100,000 in your pocket today?
So
versus waiting a year.
Next question is, how long do you think after you filed for these, how long do you think it takes to get them, to actually receive them? Right?
Well, then there's that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's not even bringing that into account. So I'm glad you guys asked. As of right now, and again, we keep getting updates that the IRS is working on this and they're getting better and they're hiring more people and now the tax season is over, they're able to delegate more people to work on these. But it's still taking anywhere from 5 to 8 months, depending on the size of your recovery. The commissioner of the IRS was just on a couple of weeks ago with Congress answering questions about why it's taking so long. And they were processing about 20,000 claims a week. But now with tax season over, they're able to shift some more manpower over there. And he said that they would like to be, or they're supposed to be, processing about 40,000. Okay. We haven't seen any increase in speed, even though we've been told, for the last year and a half, business owners and people working on this, that it's going to get better. It's going to be quicker. So we still kind of hold by, hey, listen, until we see it, it's going to be between 5 and 8 months before you start to see those checks. So going back to exactly what you guys just said, why would you wait? Why would you pass up 5 or 8, however many months that you're going to continue to procrastinate of interest or opportunities that you could be using those tax credits for?
Right.
Expansion.
Yeah. The opportunity cost alone, you got to have stuff on the back burner. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Is there a limit to the funds? I mean, can this, can it run out before, or is this an unlimited pool of funds that are available until your deadline expires?
Okay, so great question. Is it unlimited? No, it's not. Okay, But at this moment in time, there's no word, there's no there's no whispers of it running out right now. Now, again, I don't have access to the IRS bank account, but same thing. It's if there's any chance that that could happen, why would you wait?
Yeah.
There's no like strike while the iron's hot. Get in line, get reserved, and make sure that you remove that from the equation. You know, especially if we're talking about a deadline that's out in 2025. Why would you wait, for something for 2 years when you could have it right now? And you could be doing so much for your employees, for your company, for your business, other opportunities. So yeah, yep. You guys want to hear some success stories?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Mike, did we lose you?
He's a mime right now.
I was just going
Over.
to say he is really good. If we're playing a game, he's going to win. So yeah, here's a couple quick success stories, and all of these are cases and clients that I'm working with and have happened since not this week, but last Monday. So roughly the last 8 to 9 business days. We have a nonprofit who had 44 employees that is projected to get $766,000 back. Manufacturing company with 85 employees that's going to get 2.1 million. Actually, yep. A powder coating company with 12 employees is going to get 266,000. Another nonprofit that's got 20 employees that's going to get 536,000. Landscaping company with 34 employees that's going to get 531,000. Manufacturing and distribution company that's going to get with 180 employees that's going to get 3.1 million. Warehousing and distribution company that's got 40 employees that's going to get 669, and another nonprofit that's got 6 employees that's going to get 114,000. Now, that list of the companies that I just named and the industry they're in with the number of employees, that is only half of the list that we've gotten since last Monday. And all of the clients that I just named, you know what they have in common? They were all told that they don't qualify.
Whoa.
Yep.
How would you like to? And again, I mean,
Mic drop, right?
Just throwing that out there. If this was something that they inquired about during the phase 1 of it, or the 1.0, and that may have been very true that they didn't qualify. And I think that's the importance of making sure you're working with somebody who is focusing on something so specific to the ERTC tax credit, being you guys, Ryan. You guys have been able to stay on top of all the changes and be able to not miss any little steps. And I mean, just think about that the company that you said, the $3 million, and especially with the labor shortage that we have right now, it's tough for employers to retain their exceptional employees. The employees aren't wanting to leave. But if they have opportunity to maybe make more money somewhere else, I mean, this could give this employer the opportunity to say, hey guys, we are now in this position where we can, maybe match, our competitor and retain our employees that want to stay here in the first place.
Well said. Yeah. Well said, and it's money that it's completely discretionary. This doesn't come with the ands and the buts, and this is exactly how you have to spend it, like the PPP loans. It's completely at the business owner's discretion how they want to allocate those funds and how they can best serve their company and their employees. I'm going to name a couple other industries too, just to kind of see if I strike some nerves with people. Cardiologist, plumbing, restaurants. Restaurants are huge. Obviously,
Yeah.
they mandatory shutdowns, no brainer, right? Trucking company, construction companies, that kind of is in your guys' wheelhouse. Another manufacturing, and car dealerships. Okay, and again, all of those people on that list were told by someone else that they don't qualify. And you said 2 things. It's if they looked at it early and the answer to that is they might not have qualified when they originally looked at it. Okay. They also might not have revisited it. They might have revisited it, but the CPA, which we come across all the time, just doesn't feel comfortable because it's so complicated. If they don't qualify based on one glaring factor, which we just call it the easiest thing, the revenue requirement, they're dismissed. They're passed over. And there's so much more to it. It's so complicated that if you can't focus on the simplest, easiest thing, they don't get any deeper than that. Whereas that's where we excel. That's where we specialize in, is the alternative criteria. Is the revenue requirement still important? Yeah, but it's not the only one. And I actually had a really interesting discussion with an attorney and a CPA last week. And this is not an and credit where it's you have to qualify based on this and this and this. And if you can't check all those boxes, you don't qualify. This is an either or credit. It's you can qualify based on this or this or this.
Interesting. Yeah.
And those different, in between those ors is a lot of different criteria, a lot of different qualifying factors. But like I said, that's what we do better than anyone else, is help clients make sure that they're, if there's money on the table, that they're getting it. So
yeah, and as a business owner, you need to do your due diligence yourself. I think that's again. I mean, when you rely on your CPA, we kind of. I was thinking about this before today's show, and it's like, you can go do TurboTax, or if you want to reduce the liability of getting in trouble with the IRS because you did something wrong, you hire a CPA for it. You reach out to the professionals, you have them to make sure that they're reducing your risk and your liability, and having professionals do it. But that doesn't necessarily mean, to your point exactly, Ryan, where, you should be expecting them to know everything that's going on that just came about a couple months ago, or just got updated, 2-3 weeks ago. That's not necessarily fair. You yourself as a business owner have the due diligence to reach out to the professionals in these specific areas and to inquire those questions. So, Ryan, you were talking about some of the businesses out there. Are there any in that don't qualify? Is there like a list of businesses that hey, that you just unfortunately you don't get to be a player in this tax credit?
Yes, absolutely. And I think what you're more or less what you're asking is are there specific industries that are just kind of blacklisted as far as this goes? And not, no, there isn't. This is more of a less, that is why we designed an easy way to differentiate and try and screen a potential client from someone who doesn't qualify. Is that survey that I mentioned earlier. It takes about 30 minutes to complete it. And it's a way for us to take a look at it and say, just with only 30 minutes invested in your time, no specific information, we can determine that yes, you do qualify, or that no, you probably don't. But it also allows us to give you an estimate. Okay, so it's twofold. You can get a confirmation, okay, and an estimate out of it, and it costs you nothing. So yeah, that's a really good question.
And obviously, you need to have employees. I think
Yes.
that's
Yes. Okay. Perfect. Sorry, you found it. Okay. Yeah, you do have to have W-2 employees, and do we from time to time find clients that have less than 10 employees that do qualify? Yes. We try and make a threshold of it's like we know you got a pretty solid case if you've got at least 10. There's enough money that based on how much you got with the PPP loans and everything else, that there's still going to be something left in your bucket. But yeah, you got to have W-2 employees. Correct.
Again, a 30-minute survey, right? So if you do have less than 10, it's just, don't throw up your hands. Like, we're less than 10, so we're not even going to spend 30 minutes and fill out a survey and see if we can save tens of thousands of dollars. So I mean, I think it's even if you do have less than 10, 5 or 4 or whatever it might be, you owe it to yourself to reach out to Ryan Boyd and to fill out their 30-minute survey and let them do the work for you.
it could potentially be the most lucrative 30 minutes of your life.
Yeah, that's a good hourly pay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think most people would take that hourly wage for sure. Yeah.
Ryan, now that we're kind of getting to the end of today's show, is there anything that we may have missed that we want to make sure that our listeners know about with the ERTC?
No, I think I try and keep it fairly high level. I hit some of the, try and hit some of the main points. I think one of the key takeaways is if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. The best number to reach me at is 612. Is it okay if I say this?
Yes, sir. Yep. Please
Okay.
do. Yep. Phone number, website, email, whatever is best. And
Perfect. Yeah, and you can call me or text me on this with any sort of questions you have. But 612-470-0098. And again, that number is 612-470-0098. And the last carrot that I'm going to dangle is that this is the tip of the iceberg as far as what my team of specialists can do. Are they is part of our team laser focused and working only on the ERTC? Yeah, absolutely. But there's a lot more and exponentially more exciting, believe it or not, than $26,000 per employee available to you. There's even bigger and better things that we can do for your company and you as a business owner overall for the future. So it was fun listening to you guys talk about just planning for the future. House is a long-term investment. So is someone's company, and giving you guys enough time to do what you guys do best. Our team behind the scenes that works on the tax planning, they have ways to help you navigate capital gains, estate planning, seeing business valuation. It's insane how many clients get to us and they're already in the fourth corner. They're like, hey, we're trying to sell our company in 3 months or next month. And it's like, well, that doesn't allow us to fully show you and do what we do best. But if you're thinking about, or if you haven't started thinking about, these are things that you should do. It's just like going into the doctor and getting a physical. Got to do it every 2 years, whether you like it or not. Getting your an independent evaluator come in and value your business every 2 to 3 years, to making sure that you have all the right things in place. But again, it all stems from one of those discovery calls that I mentioned earlier. The scope and the magnitude of what our team can do for people is extremely impressive.
Ryan, the number one more time, please.
Yeah, number one more time is 612-470-0098. 612-470-0098. You can call me or text me.
And obviously, you guys can reach out to us as well. We have Ryan's contact saved in our phone, so we can get it to you. And thank you very much, Ryan, for joining us today, providing some incredible information. If you're a business owner out there, there could be some incredible opportunities for you in the business consultant area, and Ryan Boyd and his team are second to none. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcus. Thanks a lot, Mike.
And thank you guys for listening and taking your time to tune in today live with and supporting US Home Talk. As always, you guys can find today's show and all of our past shows on our website, ushometalk.com, or wherever you find your podcast. We are your hosts, Marcus Walgrave, Mike Overson, and we hope you guys have a blessed week. Take care.